you will be punished if you are not in line with their way of thinking. It's either sanctions, it's either demonizing this or that guy, and using all sorts of tools, including the World Bank, IMF, and other tools they use to pressure everybody to bow to this ideology. And people are fed up of this behavior, this culture of domination, hegemony. Everybody is fed up of it. The people in Africa, above any other continent, would like to see this process going forward and changing their quality of life, not for this generation, but for the coming generation. So they would use every tool, like they are using now Ukraine, to give the impression that this is a fight between Russia and Ukraine. I said, this has nothing to do with Ukraine and Russia. This is their declared war that has been there for the last 30 years, and it's not only Russia. It's for everybody else, everywhere in Asia, in Latin America, Europe, the Americas. People are fed up of this thing.
Hello everyone, welcome to Drive for Africa. Today we're diving into a powerful compilation of African leaders speaking truth to power about the continent's ongoing struggle for true independence and development. In this eye-opening video, you will hear candid perspectives on how Western financial institutions like the IMF and World Bank, along with neo-colonial practices, continue to impact Africa's growth. Our speakers expose the systematic exploitation of African resources, discuss the critical role of the African diaspora in building capacity, and highlight the urgent need for African unity and self-determination. From unfair lending practices to resource exploitation, from the brain drain of African professionals to the deliberate creation of conflicts, these leaders paint a comprehensive picture of the challenges facing Africa today. But more importantly, they offer hope and solutions for change. Whether you are part of the African diaspora, interested in global politics, or simply seeking to understand Africa's true potential, this video will challenge your perspectives and inspire your thinking about Africa's future. Let's listen to those powerful voices as they break down the complex realities facing the continent and chart a path forward for truly independent Africa. Stay tuned and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you find this content valuable.
IMF, World Bank, all other institutions, they make African countries jump through hoops. Loans will never be able to pay. The US, when they borrow money, they're getting it in 1.5, 1.9 interest rate. Africans, when they get the same amount of money, they're paying 9, 10%. The people who don't need a break, they get a break. The ones who need a break, they don't get a break. The sheer survival of the World Bank, IMF, is based on the fact that African countries and many other developing countries do not succeed. Their success is based on our failure. That has to change. And guess who can make that change? We, the children of Africa, we, the Africans, are the ones who have to say, we know your game now. Enough is enough. We're not playing it anymore. And this is where the diaspora come in. There are more Ghanaian doctors in New York City than in the entire country of Ghana. There are more Nigerian doctors in LA than in the entire country of Nigeria. So let's be serious here. What Africa needs is capacity, capacity, capacity. And that capacity is in the diaspora. So it behooves us to bring the diaspora together. Let them understand what is really going on in our Africa. Diaspora are not going home. Diaspora are angry about Africa because they are not understanding the root cause of why Africa is where it is today. They think getting rid of a president will take care of the problem. Far from it. That president is just going to be replaced by another one who is going to equally suffer from the same difficult environment to work in. So let's look at an Africa that must be free to take care of herself, an Africa that's free from exploitation from outsiders. The multinationals who are stealing from Africa every day in broad daylight. I use an example of the DRC. If you ever fly very low over the DRC, you'll see tarmacs in the jungle. You'll see 747s flying into DRC, picking up minerals and flying right out. The same multinationals are responsible for arming young people and giving them MK-16s. Because why? Their satellites in the skies are telling them where that village is. There are lots of diamonds. So what do? Arm young people, drag them up, and send them to go chop off a few heads. The rest of the village runs away, so they come behind and do their illegal mining. We black people must understand what is really going on. Because what we are shown instead is, oh, look at those Africans killing each other. There are some serious games that have been played in Africa for far too long. And once we understand that, we can strategize as to how we can begin to bring the difference and bring the change that Africa needs. And that change can only come if the African diaspora are united. And the Wakanda villages, as I call them, it is our organized way of saying, starting with one African diaspora center of excellence, it will be a new city, a developmental hub that we can then take from there. Every sector is developed. Take healthcare. How many doctors do we need in this region to take care of this many people? We pick up education, same thing. We pick up engineering. We pick up electricity. How many megawatts of power do we have in the region? How many do we need? Be it solar, be it wind, be it hydro, be it geothermal, be it nuclear.
And let's look at it from a historical context. It's trendy. It's a pattern. It's a pattern of behavior. It's a cultural pattern for them to come up and change it. What difference does it make, whether it's slavery, colonialism, or hegemonistic? It's a matter of grabbing, controlling, and using all possible tools of achieving that. I call it a fantasy. It's a sickness. It's a cultural sickness for people to continue generations working on this matter. Colonize or even grab land in the Americas. Do we find indigenous people now? Indigenous people are exterminated, first and foremost. You will never find red Indians, that they would like to call them in the United States. They are not there because they were exterminated. Go to Australia and you see people exterminated. 9 million people were exterminated in the Congo, in Africa. It's grabbing land and exterminating populations. When you start doing something, let's say cotton plantation in the United States, they had to take slaves from Africa as cheap labor. Slavery was there, and the objective was very clear. Then it changed faces and become what people call colonialism. What is the difference between colonialism, slavery, extermination of indigenous people here and there? The goal is one and the same. And then comes this ideology of hegemony, containing this and containing that and creating problems here and there, conflicts here and there. It's the same tactic. It's the pattern, and the trend is obvious for everyone. Now, people have learned their lesson. They're working in solidarity to extricate themselves out of this cycle. It's a cycle. It continues, and happens. Yeah, names may change, tactics may change, but it's the same objective. And we're saying now, in the 21st century, we need to create the ground or prepare the ground for a new world order. We'll never continue to live like this. And I talk about Africa, but Asia, go there. It's the same thing. Looking for conflict between us and that nation. One people and another people. One ethnic group, another ethnic group. It's a repetition of slavery. George Floyd's history is nothing unique. I mean, how many people are enslaved in the Americas now? Whether they come from the South or whether they've been there for the last 2-3 centuries. The same thing going on in many parts of the world. So it's trendy. The pattern is the same. Tactics may change. The tools they use may change with times. But again, I say it's the same trend and the same ideology that we face.
In order for Africa to realize our potential, we must trade amongst ourselves. But the neo-colonizer was not resting. A little earlier, 5 years earlier, the neo-colonizers had sat down in Lomé in Togo, not too far from here, and came up with an agreement of African and European and Pacific countries. And when that did not work, they sat again in Cotonou here in Benin and came up with the Cotonou agreement. They are never resting. We must never forget that. The neo-colonialists are alive and well, and is always trying to frustrate what we do, because Africa is their hunting ground. And we did not stop there. When we are doing things, you tell me what Africa has not tried to do. In terms of the airspace, we agreed in Yamoussoukro, in La Côte d'Ivoire, that we will open our airspaces in 1988. We sat in Abuja here in Nigeria in 2001 and said we were going to spend not less than 15% of our budget in the health sector. We sat in Malabo, Equatorial Guinea in 2014 and said we were going to focus on agriculture. We sat down in Maputo in 2013 and said we were going to ensure that our women were mainstreamed in the activities of Africa. We sat down in Abuja in 2013, in 2014 and said we were going to have free movement of people, and once again sat down in Kigali, Rwanda 2018 and said we were going to eliminate visas. We sat down in Abuja and said that we were going to silence the guns in 2013. We did not. And we sat down in 2020 and said we were going to silence them. And now the guns are alive and well. And who are supplying us with the weapons? It is not us. It is others. Should we blame them? Yes, we should. Should we blame ourselves? Yes, we should. So Africa has always been a battleground. And the rhetoric that we see and the manner in which we ourselves are educated. My sister talked about education. But really, what are we teaching ourselves? It is fella Nicola Pokuti said, "Teacher, don't teach me nonsense.